I stopped financially supporting my girlfriend after she told me I was replaceable. Am I the asshole for cutting her off completely? I need some perspective here because my head is still spinning. I've been with Qley for 2.5 years, living together for the past year. I'm 34, work as a risk analyst at an insurance firm, not exciting cocktail party conversation, but it pays well and I'm good at it. The job is about identifying problems before they become disasters, which is ironic given my situation. Qley is 29. When we met, she worked as an event coordinator. She was good at it, organized, creative, energetic. But 18 months ago, she wanted to build something of her own, become a wellness and lifestyle creator. It seemed like a reasonable dream. I was supportive. When we decided to move in together last year, Qley found this place in a trendy neighborhood, exposed brick, big windows, Instagram ready. It was $600 more per month than I'd planned, but she was excited about the lighting and layout for filming. This is an investment in our future, she said. I believed her. I put the lease in my name. My credit score was higher, income stable, made sense. The understanding was she'd contribute once the creator thing took off. I took on 75% of the rent and all utilities. That seemed fair. She was building something, taking a risk. I could support that. Then there was the supplementary credit card. About 3 months into living together, Qley explained that she needed better equipment. Ring lights, a decent camera, backdrops, props. And outfits, she needed different outfits for different aesthetics and content pillars. It made sense to me at the time. What's a few $100s a month if it helps her build a business, right? So I added her as an authorized user on one of my credit cards with a reasonable limit. Except a few hundred became a few thousand pretty quickly. Designer athleisure for her wellness content. Skincare products for unboxing videos. Trips to trendy cafes and boutiques for day-in-the-life posts. I'd look at the statements sometimes and feel this knot in my stomach, but she was posting consistently. Her follower count was growing slowly but steadily, and she seemed genuinely passionate. I told myself this was normal, that building a brand required investment, that we were investing in our future together. Then about 8 months ago, she started asking about hiring help. She wanted a PR manager to pitch her to brands. She'd found this woman who charged $800 a month. Qley promised it would pay for itself once sponsorships started rolling in. I thought about saying no, but I could afford it, and she was excited. That was 8 months ago. I don't think she's landed a single paid sponsorship that covered the fee. About 6 months ago, Qley discovered networking events for creators and entrepreneurs. Rented lofts, hotel conference rooms, everyone dressed like they're closing million-dollar deals. She started going 2 or 3 times a week, coming home energized about connections and opportunities. That's where she met Blake. He's probably late 30s, always posting photos next to exotic cars or at exclusive parties. His bio calls him an entrepreneur and networking specialist, but I've never been sure what he actually does. Blake never openly hit on Qley, but he'd make comments. "Your man sounds low energy," or "Doesn't he understand leveraging capital?" Once, at an event I reluctantly attended, he told me I was holding Qley back by being too conservative. I didn't love it, but Qley seemed genuinely excited about these connections. So I kept quiet, even when the credit card bills kept climbing, because apparently you need designer outfits to network with the right people. Then last week happened. Qley came home from one of her networking sessions, all fired up about this opportunity. There was going to be a brand retreat in Scottsdale, some kind of exclusive gathering for influencers and entrepreneurs. Blake was organizing it with a few other people in their circle. The itinerary included workshops about scaling your personal brand, networking sessions by the pool, group dinners at high-end restaurants. It sounded more like a vacation with a few seminars sprinkled in, but Qley was convinced it was essential for her growth. Then she told me the cost. Flights, 4 nights at a resort, meals, the workshops all in, it would be about $4,000. For one person. She wanted me to fund it. I said I needed to think about it. I spent that evening going through our finances, really looking at the numbers for the first time in months. I'd been avoiding it, I think, because somewhere deep down I knew what I'd find. Between the rent, the credit card that now had a balance over $12,000, the PR manager who'd yet to deliver results, and our regular living expenses, I was stretched thin. Not broke, but definitely not comfortable. And $4,000 for what was essentially a luxury vacation disguised as a business opportunity. I couldn't justify it. The next day, I sat her down. I brought my laptop, showed her the spreadsheets I'd put together. I explained as calmly and rationally as I could that we needed to dial back spending, that the retreat wasn't in our budget right now. I wasn't saying never, I was saying not now, not at this price, not when we had outstanding balances to manage. Qley listened, but I could see her shutting down. When I finished, she just looked at me for a long moment. Then she laughed. Not a real laugh, this cold, dismissive sound that made my stomach drop. She shook her head slowly and said, "You know what, Jonah? You're replaceable, don't think you're special." I just stared at her. The words hung there between us, and I waited for her to take them back, to say she didn't mean it, but she didn't. She just stood up and started walking toward the bedroom. I didn't yell. I didn't follow her. I just asked one question very quietly. If I'm replaceable, then the things I'm carrying can be replaced too, right? She stopped in the doorway, turned back to look at me. I thought maybe she'd realize what she'd said, but she just rolled her eyes and disappeared into the bedroom. That was 8 days ago now. Since then, I've been thinking about what happens next. The truth is, I don't think I'm special. I never claimed to be. But if I'm just an ATM to her, if anyone could fill this role, then why am I still filling it? I'm considering stopping all financial support. Not kicking her out immediately, I'm not a monster, but making it clear that she needs to either contribute equally or make other arrangements. The apartment lease, the credit card, the manager fees, all of it. But part of me wonders if I'm being too cold, if I'm letting my hurt feelings make me act rashly. We've been together over 2 years. Maybe she was just stressed and said something she didn't mean. But another part of me keeps hearing "you're replaceable" on repeat. So Reddit, would I be the asshole if I stopped supporting her financially after that comment? Am I overreacting? Edit. To answer the most common question, no, we don't have kids. No shared assets besides the apartment lease. And yes, I'm starting to see that maybe supporting her dream crossed over into being used somewhere along the way. Thanks for the wake-up call. Update 1. First off, thank you all for the responses on my last post. A lot of you asked if I was going to just ghost her or do something reckless. That's not my style. I work in compliance and risk management. I do everything by the book, with documentation. So that's exactly how I handled this. Here's what I did in the 48 hours after my last post. I called the credit card company and closed her supplementary card. I didn't do it out of spite. I called her first and told her I was doing it, explained she had until end of business that day to make any necessary purchases, and then it would be deactivated. She hung up on me. The card got closed anyway. Then I contacted our building management. I sent them a formal email requesting to either transfer the lease entirely to Qley's name, if she qualified, or to initiate the early termination process according to our lease terms. I also made it clear in writing that I would continue paying my portion of rent and utilities for 30 additional days beyond our current arrangement. But after that, the financial responsibility would be entirely hers. I wanted a paper trail showing I wasn't just abandoning her or breaking any legal obligations. I kept copies of everything. Every email, every text message, every transaction. Again, it's what I do professionally. You document everything so there's no ambiguity later. Qley's reaction has been a journey. It started with anger. I got a series of texts calling me controlling and manipulative. She said I was punishing her for having boundaries, which is rich considering what sparked this. Then came the guilt trip phase. Suddenly it was all "I didn't mean it like that" and I was just stressed. She wanted to talk it through, said we could work this out if I just stopped being so cold. When neither of those approaches worked, she shifted to playing victim with her friends. I started getting messages from people in her circle telling me I was being toxic and financially abusive. One of Blake's buddies actually DM'd me suggesting I needed therapy for my control issues. That would have gotten under my skin before, but after reading your comments, I saw it for what it was, her trying to weaponize social pressure. But here's where it gets interesting, and honestly, where I started feeling genuinely disturbed rather than just hurt. I was up late a few nights ago, couldn't sleep, just scrolling mindlessly through social media. I ended up on Qley's Instagram, looking at old posts, trying to spot when things changed between us. That's when I noticed links in her bio I'd never really paid attention to before. One led to something called the Feminine Frequency Method, a coaching program. Curious, I clicked through. Qley's been running this operation I knew nothing about. She's selling coaching teaching women how to enter high-value relationships. The basic package is $297, but there's a VIP tier for $997, and the entire marketing approach is built on her life. Our life. The sales page has testimonials using proof from our relationship. Photos of our apartment, the one I pay for, described as creating a sanctuary that reflects your value. Screenshots of meals at restaurants, with captions about allowing yourself to receive abundance. There's a whole section about how she manifested a partner in finance who supports her purpose, and how her students can do the same. She's anonymized it enough to avoid using my name or face, but anyone who knows us would recognize the details. My job appears as high-level corporate role in risk management. Our apartment building shows up in location tags. Things I've said to her have been repackaged as what high-value men understand. I found posts from a private Facebook group where she's even more explicit. She talks about strategies for getting men to cover expenses, upgrade lifestyles, and fund ventures. It's framed as empowerment, but reading between the lines, it's manipulation dressed up as feminine energy work. I felt physically sick. Every sacrifice I'd made, every time I'd stretched my budget, she'd been turning it into content, into a product. I wasn't her partner, I was her case study, her proof of concept. So now I'm not just wondering if I was being used financially. I'm wondering if I was being used as content, as proof of concept, as a character in someone else's story about how to extract resources from men. The last few days, she's been trying to get me to meet up to talk this through properly. She keeps saying we can fix this if I just stop overreacting. But I don't know if there's anything to fix anymore. When someone tells you you're replaceable, maybe you should believe them, and maybe you should let them try to replace you. I've got 26 more days of the 30-day notice I gave myself. I'm using that time to figure out my next move. I've already started looking at other apartments, smaller places that actually fit my needs instead of someone else's aesthetic. Thanks again for all the support. I'll update if anything significant happens. Edit, a lot of you are telling me to lawyer up. I'm looking into what my options are regarding her using my likeness life details for commercial purposes. Even if she didn't use my name or face, if I can prove it's clearly about me and our relationship, there might be something there. I have a consult scheduled with an attorney next week. Edit 2. Someone asked about Blake. Yeah, I've been thinking about him too. Something about the whole situation feels off. The more I watch his social media, the more it looks like smoke and mirrors. But that's probably not my problem to solve anymore. Update 2. This is probably going to be my second to last update. Things have escalated in ways I didn't see coming. Qley reached out 3 days ago asking if we could meet at a coffee shop to talk like adults. She said she wanted to negotiate a way forward that worked for both of us. Part of me knew it was a bad idea, but part of me still wanted to believe we could end this civilly. So I agreed. I came prepared. I brought printouts, credit card statements from the last 6 months, highlighted charges that she'd categorized as business expenses. Designer handbags, spa days, tickets to influencer events, bottle service at clubs. Thousands of dollars that had nothing to do with ring lights or backdrops. I brought them because I wanted her to see, in black and white, why I'd hit my limit. She showed up 20 minutes late, which should have been my first clue about how seriously she was taking this. She sat down, ordered a matcha latte, which, reflexively, I almost offered to pay for before catching myself, and opened with, "I've been thinking and I realize we both made mistakes here." I didn't bite. I just slid the statements across the table. She barely glanced at them before pushing them back. "That's not the point, Jonah. The point is you're trying to control me by controlling the money." Blake says, I interrupted. "Tell me something. What does Blake actually do, besides post photos next to rented cars?" Her face went red. "Blake is taking me to the next level. He's introducing me to real opportunities, real brands, things you never believed in enough to help me with." That's when I decided to push. "Qley, I've supported you for a year and a half. What level are you even on right now? What revenue have you actually generated?" She started crying. "Not the manipulative kind, the real, panicked kind." "You don't understand," she said. "I need to maintain the image. I need to keep up appearances because I signed a contract." That made me stop. What contract? It all came out. About 4 months ago, Qley signed with a creator management agency. They promised to get her brand deals, sponsorships, speaking opportunities, but there were conditions. She had to maintain a certain posting frequency, meet engagement metrics, deliver on campaigns they booked for her. And if she didn't, financial penalties. She'd been hemorrhaging money trying to meet KPIs she'd never hit. But it gets worse. To secure the contract, she'd inflated her credentials, told them she had a partner in finance, and that their household income was in the high 6 figures. She'd used me, my job, my stability, my income, as collateral for her credibility. The agency thought she had financial backing. That's why they took a chance on her. I sat there processing this while she kept talking, kept trying to explain. Finally, I asked her, "Does Blake know about any of this?" She hesitated too long. That told me everything, so I did what I do best. I investigated. Took me about 2 hours that evening to piece it together. Blake isn't rich. The cars he poses with, rental services that cater to influencers, you can rent a Lamborghini for a few hours for Instagram. The VIP events, comp tickets given to content creators to make parties look exclusive. The whole lifestyle is a facade, and Blake's been running on fumes just like Qley. The only difference, Blake thought Qley had money. Or rather, he thought she had access to money through me. He was circling her because he saw her as his meal ticket. The whole mindset and leveling up routine wasn't about romance. It was about finding someone else to fund his lifestyle. They were both using each other, and I was bankrolling the whole operation without knowing it. When I told Qley what I'd found out about Blake, she didn't deny it. She just looked exhausted. "I know," she said quietly. "I figured it out a couple weeks ago, but I'd already signed the contract. I'd already promised the agency I could deliver. I thought if I could just keep it going a little longer, something would work out." "And I was supposed to be that something," I said. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Here's the situation now. Qley owes her agency about $8,000 in penalties for missed deliverables. She's maxed out her personal credit cards trying to keep up appearances. And Blake, once he realized the money train was stopping, has apparently gone radio silent. She came to me because she's desperate. Not because she loves me or realized she was wrong. Because I'm the only lifeboat left and she's drowning. Edit. For everyone asking, no, I'm not going to bail her out financially. That ship has sailed. The question is whether I help her in some other way, like connecting her with resources or negotiating with her agency. Still figuring that out. Edit 2. Blake blocked me on Instagram after I sent him a single message asking how the Lamborghini rental business was going. Make of that what you will. Final update. This is it, the final chapter. Thank you all for sticking with me through this mess. After my last update, I made my moves. First, I had an attorney draft a cease and desist letter regarding her use of my personal information in her coaching business. It was very specific. She needed to remove any references that could be identified as me, stop using details about our relationship as testimonials or case studies, and discontinue any content that portrayed me as an example of her methods working. The letter made it clear that if she continued or if she made any defamatory statements about me publicly, I would pursue civil action. The letter was delivered by courier. Professional, documented, no room for misinterpretation. Second, I followed through on my 30-day commitment exactly as I'd stated. I paid my final share of rent and utilities, but I paid them directly to the building and the utility companies. Not a dollar went to Qley personally. I even confirmed with the landlord in writing that my obligation was complete and that I would not be renewing or extending the lease. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Qley tried one last play. She posted on her Instagram story a video of herself crying, talking about how she'd been controlled and manipulated by a wealthy partner who used money as a weapon. She didn't name me, but she used enough details that anyone who knew us would know exactly who she meant. She talked about financial abuse and men who trap women with promises of support. Within an hour, I had screenshots sent to me by 3 different people. Here's the thing, I'd anticipated something like this. I had everything saved. The text where she called me replaceable. The messages where she explicitly asked me to pay for things to maintain her image. The email thread about the apartment where she wrote that it was worth the higher rent for the aesthetic. Screenshots of her coaching content where she described getting men to invest in your lifestyle. I didn't post any of it publicly. That's not who I am, and honestly, I didn't need to. Instead, I sent a carefully written message to 3 people: her mother, her older sister, and one of her close friends who'd reached out to me months ago concerned about the direction Qley was heading. I attached the relevant screenshots and wrote, "I'm not interested in a public battle. I'm not going to defend myself on social media, but I wanted you to have the full context before you hear one side of the story." Qley's mom called me the next day. She apologized, said she'd had concerns for a while but didn't know how to approach it. She asked if there was any way to work things out. I told her gently but firmly, no, that ship didn't just sail, it sank. The Instagram story came down within 24 hours. What I learned later was that my message caused a pretty significant ripple effect in Qley's life. Her sister apparently had a long conversation with her about the pattern of using people, bringing up stuff from years ago that I'd never known about. Her close friend stopped answering Qley's calls for a while. That friend had apparently been one of Qley's success stories in her coaching program, and realizing she'd been part of a manipulation scheme hit her hard. The networking circle started to distance themselves once word got around that Qley's high-value lifestyle was funded by someone else. Blake disappeared completely, blocked her on everything. Turns out a lot of those people were only interested in her because they thought she had money or access to money. When that illusion cracked, so did the friendships. Her mother did try to help her, from what I heard. Got her into therapy, helped her find a new apartment she could actually afford. But the damage to her reputation in that influencer space was done. People talk, especially in those circles. The coaching program collapsed not just because of the agency issues, but because former clients started comparing notes and realizing the whole thing was built on a house of cards. Fast forward to now. I'm in a new apartment, 1 bedroom, reasonable rent, no ring light potential whatsoever. It's quiet. It's mine. I've been putting more energy into work, and honestly, it's been good for my career. I got a promotion opportunity I'd been too distracted to pursue before. Qley, from what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, lost her agency contract. Her coaching business fizzled out once people realized the testimonials weren't real. Last I heard, she was back to doing event coordination work. I hope it works out for her. I really do. But it's not my problem anymore. There's one more thing, and it's kind of bizarre. About 3 weeks after I moved out, I got an email from a marketing company. They'd been approached by Qley's former agency about a campaign and had discovered in their due diligence that most of her lifestyle content was funded by me. They wanted to know if I'd be interested in partnering with them on a financial literacy for men campaign. Something about budgeting, healthy relationship dynamics, knowing when you're being used. The irony wasn't lost on me. I declined, politely but firmly. I told them I appreciated the offer, but I wasn't interested in turning my personal pain into content. That's what got me into this mess in the first place. I'm not going to become the male version of that. So that's where I am. Single, in a smaller place, probably overthinking my finances more than ever. But I'm not replaceable anymore, not to anyone who doesn't actually value me. And that feels like progress.